Welcome to the Craig and Greg Show, presented by Maximize Leadership. Here are Craig Owens and Greg Harris.
Hey, welcome to the Craig and Greg Show. I'm Craig. This is Greg. We have an ongoing series that we like to bring to you that we call Leadership Builders and Leadership Killers. And today, I'm going to start with the killer. Because I think a lot of people are going to be, so I want to forewarn you, because you're going to go, that's not me, and you're going to want to check out at the beginning. When I say what the killer is, there's going to be so many of you that are going to go, that's not me, I don't fit into that category. But just hang with us a little bit, because I think maybe you'll catch it. So, Greg, the leadership killer that I think we need to watch out for is greed.
It is greed, and I think the challenge with greed, unfortunately, is it comes in different packages. So one would think greed would be like just for money, which is a big problem for some leaders who are kind of governed by that. But greed could be resources. You know, they're not willing to share the resource within their organization to another department. It could be greedy, me versus us. I need the attention. I need the credit. I need to be in front of everybody at the company outing. It's greed just drives someone to pretty much be a lonely person, not a leader of persons.
Yes.
And I think the greed is just really, it's very destructive. It's one of the deadly sins. And even when, the Ten Commandments discusses coveting, and coveting could really have an innate seed of greed.
Oh yeah,
well,
I want that.
You shouldn't have that nice car because you have now two nice cars. I have two older cars, and it's only fair. It's only equitable. So I think greed can really get to envy and jealousy, but greed doesn't look good on a leader.
Well, you and I, sadly, have both had experiences being around people that. Whether they were aware that greed was predominating or not. But you worked with somebody once that I would describe them as they were always putting me in front of we.
Yeah. They turned the M, the W over to M. Yeah. And the whole sports analogy of there's no I in team. Unless the person feels that they're the team.
Yes, right.
So an example, we played a lot of sports together, and you're a very good athlete. There's 5 guys on a basketball court. There's not one. Well, that sort of a greedy leader wants to just play one.
Yep.
Like call my play again, coach. Throw me the ball again. I'm open. Yeah, but you haven't even crossed half court. How can you? Of course, you're open. So I think the negativity of the killer is. Others around start to possess, protect,
right.
Don't share. He could run with it. He could take it from me. He might take credit from me.
Right.
He might change it so that it. So I think the part for leaders is relax, because the greedy is so destructive, and if there are. There's a growth mindset thing that I really enjoy is abundance or scarcity. And I think a greedy leader lives in scarcity.
Absolutely.
I can't give the bigger piece of the pie because the pie is only 10 inches wide. Then I can't have leftovers.
Right.
And I think sharing versus taking is a challenge where a leader really needs to be okay with themselves. I'm a leader, yet I don't need to be on the top. And I worked with someone who just had to be in the top. He had to be in every conversation. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm sure he might have started out good intentions, but it became such a psychopathic behavior where, everything was scruples and under scrutiny. And it's like, oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah, I remember working with somebody. We were, as far as like the corporate flow chart would go, we would be lateral to each other, but completely two different departments. And she would get like upset if I was bringing in new business, new clients.
I don't get it.
And she would say, it was like, well, you're making me look bad. How am I making you look bad? You have a completely different set of clientele than I have. But that's that mindset, and then that's why I had to struggle with, like what you said, well, I don't want to share anything with her then, because she's going to try to take it and make it look like it's hers.
Right. Or sabotage. I've been around people that sabotage it because they don't want you to win every time. And yet don't you want our company to win, or our organization to win, or a church to win, or a school?
Me over we.
God, it's just, I think discontentedness, kind of leads to greed, or certainly, esteem issues lead to greed, but it is a deadly sin. It is.
So let's talk about how do we strike this thing down? If the leadership killer is greed, what's the leadership builder that we need to focus on to overwhelm that?
It's a big word. It's called contentment, I think, is the other side of greed, or the builder of a leader is contentment. And then I don't mean to say that, Craig, and for those listening, it's not that you lose your competitiveness,
right,
or your drive, totally, or your resilience. It's just I feel okay. I don't need to be in that leadership chair too, in that department, although I don't work in that department. I think it's important to be contented. I also like the word joy, because joy comes from inside. I'm not going to get into the wordsmithing too much here, but I think happiness kind of is what's happening. Joy is internal, and a contentment is that. So Apostle Paul, wrote quite a few books in the New Testament, and he wrestled with. He had to choose contentment in one of his verses. He chose it. And I think for us leaders, it's not natural. It's not instantaneous. True. And it's maybe not even easy, because you do want the organization to do well. The problem is when you go through that filter of greed, it isn't about the org then anymore. It's about you in the org.
Right.
Where are you in the org? So.
Right. Well, and I tend to find that discontentment is where you kind of, it's the path of least resistance. It's where your mind would naturally go.
Yeah.
Contentment requires you to put energy into it. Mm-hmm. If nothing else, energy into the thought of like going, well, why am I upset that they got something there? I mean, it didn't diminish anything from me. No. In fact, if anything, if they did well, the whole team is getting better as a result of that.
It does question the leader's teamwork. Mm-hmm. If you're greedy, it's pretty tough to be about team. It's just about work.
Yep.
So I think now more than ever, we have a world full of discontented people.
Sure.
I like this sentence from a leader standpoint. A contented leader lasts longer than a happy leader. Because happy is kind of circumstance. Yep. Right? Content is sort of the internal wiring. Yep. And I just like what Apostle Paul does. He just says, I had to choose it. Yep. And it wasn't easy.
Well, I like, you sent me a quote from Benjamin Franklin that I really like. Let me read this one. Content makes poor people rich, and discontent makes rich people poor. And I don't think he's just talking about money there. No. He's talking about the internal dialogue that you would have at times.
I mean, Craig, you've met some wonderful people. You've met some people who needed to be treated wonderful, and that's the kind of leader you are. I think the challenge that Ben Franklin really puts out there, it's about the spirit of the person.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Not the position, not the W-2, not the title. It is a rich person in spirit becomes poor with discontent.
Yes.
And I think that's the warning for all of us. It's so easy to complain, critique, and it's a choice to get up and say it's going to be a good day. You just started. How do you know? Well, because I want to make it the best it can be.
I'm going to make it.
I'm going to make it a good day. Yeah. And I think Ben Franklin, obviously a very wise person, some wonderful quotes and great inventions. Hence why we have lights, etc. Yeah. But I think the poorer person in spirit, if they become content. So I was on a missions trip to a South American country, and they just loved the help. It was humanitarian. We served and loved on them and improved things that they were using to minister to their people in South America. One thing I walked away from is, the average income in that particular country was really small, like really, really small. But when we left, they all had to give us gifts. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty emotional. We came in thinking we have the resources and the knowledge and blah, 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 blah. And, oh, come kiss my ring, that kind of thing. We didn't come in with that, but that's the tendency. That's our trap. And they gave us these gifts. You're like, that is a week's wage or a month's wage. And you couldn't return it. You couldn't give it back to them. So I learned the hard way going on a missions trip, which was really important, great timing for me. When I went there, I thought, I'll be a blessing. It'll be fulfilling. I'll serve God this way to those people who are amazing. Just they need a leg up. When I left, I thought, yep, the equation went the other way. They did more for me than I think I did for them. And I think a greedy leader cannot do that. My self-awareness was a little embarrassing flying back. I'm thinking, yeah, that didn't come out the way I wanted.
Right. Or a discontent leader because,
right.
Wait a minute, I should be getting the credit for
yeah.
this.
And, you got that? I mean, I didn't get that gift. And so it's a fight of humanity.
Well, so let me ask you that. I think that if you're the senior leader or the point leader on the team, I think that this is a good introspective question. I got to look in the mirror and go, am I a contented person or am I struggling with this? But what do you do as the senior leader if you start seeing that scarcity mindset or that discontentment among members of your team? Right. How can you, because you can't just walk in to somebody and say, stop being greedy, stop being discontent.
Right.
What can you do to help redirect them to get them on a path?
I think coaching and mentoring. I think that's if you're going to say I'm a leader of this organization, your job isn't to read the financials. Mm-hmm. Your job isn't to create a new marketplace in another country. Your job isn't to drive the truck. Your job isn't to make the food. It is actually to figure out how to develop people so that your scalability in your organization, not so much profitability. Scalability is having other people help move the ball down the field. Right. And I'm just going to read a couple points that I did some research on what a contented leader does. It draws out peacefulness in the organization. Yep. So there's a less of a desperate activity, behavior, words spoken, actions taken or not taken. I think the other part that is fascinating is build satisfaction. So a leader who says we're going to be a contented organization and I'm going to start with me, there's a lot of chances to mentor, coach the next group. So that could be entrepreneurs, emerging, other executives. You almost have to take that banner and say, I'm going to be a contented leader and we're going to actually recognize contentedness. Yes. I think that's the key to do. It reduces envy. It honors humility. I think that's the one thing I would say. The opposite of a greedy person is an unselfish person, but I think it's a humility issue too. Sure. Speaking of the person I used to work with, I just watched him really drop the ball on humility, and because he wanted the honor, right? Yep. Kiss the ring. It's just not that. It's just not the way. And I think the key for people in an organization, it develops a discipline to stay contented when you all sort of subscribe to it. That's what I would recommend.
Yep. Well, I think leaders definitely need to be that thermostat, and they've got to set it first by themselves and say, okay, this is where I'm going to choose to be. And then when they see those things that make that thermostat go click, oh, hey, wait a minute, we've fallen below a level here. I need to step in. Yeah. Because it is, like I said earlier, I think that the discontentment is so natural for people to just slide into that without even thinking about it and going, did they get more than me? How come I don't have? Am I going to get the recognition for? It's just that natural, but it requires the energy to say, no, wait a minute. I am being recognized here. And so what if they got a little bit more? It's still helping out the whole team.
Right. Maybe as we stack things in life, work is really something that God owns and you do.
Yes.
If a leader's greedy, it's their work, not God's work.
Absolutely.
And I'm not talking about a pastor of a church or a principal of a school or a nonprofit executive or a for-profit CEO, whatever. I just think that really kind of delineates the difference between a leader who's on fire and is content. There's a lot of freedom in it. If I look back and think about persons who were greedier as a leader, I don't know if I saw the smiles, and I think even peacefulness internally.
Yep.
And it's a battle, unfortunately, that many fight. I believe associates, teammates, fellow employees probably leave because of a supervisor, manager, leader issue. They rarely leave because the product's horrible.
Yep.
Compensation's not enough, whatever. They start looking, and they might find a job that pays more, but they didn't do it for that reason. They did it because they were unjoyful, because the leader was unjoyful.
Absolutely.
I think that's the sever.
Wrap that up for our friends. Let's talk to our leaders that are watching today. Give them a challenge, something that they can grab a hold of and live this out.
So here's my leadership challenge, and I'm not saying that any one of us are greedy. I think we have the tendency to play that way, but I think the filter for are you a contented leader comes down to this question: how do you see others? Are they for development and so they can be awesome? That would be a contented leader. Or are others seen by you as a leader that you might utilize them or use them versus develop them or celebrate them? And that would be the greedy leader. So I think the difference between contented and greedy is how do you see people? That could be vendors, employees, clients. It can be applied anywhere. And that's our challenge, is get to that side where you see people that you wish to have them develop and win. And you'll move, if you even are, you'll move from greed to contentment, and you're like, this is really comfortable. I like contentedness. Yeah. So as Paul wrote about it, you have to choose it, select it. I think leaders, even us, every day I have to choose to invest in other people versus take.
Yep. Well, we're here to be a resource for you. You find whether it's this leadership builder and killer that we're talking about here or something else that you just say, I just can't get past this one hurdle, this one thing that's kind of holding me back in my leadership. That's what our coaching huddles are about. That's why we're here. And so go online to maximizeleadership.com. Check out our website, and on there you'll find a link for our coaching huddles. You can get more information there. If you want to shoot us a question or a topic that maybe you'd like us to cover in an upcoming episode, you can go on Twitter at Maximize Podcast and talk to us there. But then just stay tuned. Our job, our goal, what we're trying to do is make this investment in you, because we really do have this mentality that if you get better and your organization gets better, then all the organizations that are touching you are going to get better. Ultimately, it's going to make us better as a result. So this really is an abundance mentality that we have, and we want you to have it as well. So make sure that you subscribe on YouTube, click that bell so that you're notified the next time that an episode of the Craig and Greg Show drops.
Get in touch with Craig and Greg through Twitter at Maximize Podcast or at MaximizeLeadership.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of the Craig and Greg Show.